Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to go through adversity? We got a great show for you. Morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. And today's show isn't just about going through adversity, it's about overcoming adversity. And I'm sure that's going through it while you're overcoming. So
You just skip past it, right? You're like, just not doing this.
yeah. By adversity. Our guest today is going to be awesome. Real quick, new year, new Giants, new everything. There's a lot of stuff happening, and we're so excited. We've got some events. We've got an event coming up on the 20th and 21st in Phoenix, Arizona. So if you're in the Phoenix area, watch our Facebook stuff. We've made posts about the event that we're doing. It's a 2-day event, a Friday night and Saturday, half of a Saturday. So it doesn't take up your entire weekend, which is awesome. And then we're going to be in Vernal, Utah, the following weekend. Or it'll be a Thursday, Friday for that one. And so if you're out in the Utah Uinta Basin, then we will maybe see you. So come check us out and say hello. And we've got our Sum Gigante group that's going to be happening February 2nd. Is that right, Nick?
February 1st. Yeah, new time.
$8 short.
We're going to go earlier in the day so that we can hit more of our overseas buddies, Giants. Yeah. So we've got people in South Africa, Australia, the UK that can't jump on at 2 a.m. for some weird reason.
Yeah. He does. He looks 1 year older, and wiser too. He had a birthday.
I survived 48 years yesterday.
Yeah.
Yay, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nick looks older.
Nick looks older. I say that every day.
Yeah.
Because you are older than me. Just have to let everyone know that.
Yeah.
What else do we have? What other announcements?
No, just that. You know, the fun thing about the events is, one, we're doing an intensive in Phoenix, and in Vernal, we're doing a book reading / instruction, which is also powerful. So whatever works for you, if you want us to come to your organization or come to your area, reach out to us and we'll give you details around that.
On the 11th, is it the 11th? What do you have on the 11th?
Well, on the 11th, I've got the live training. It's a 2-hour intensive training on the 12 journeys, and it's $47. It's cheap. And then on the 16th, for tribe members, we've got the free training on grief. So we're going to go over the journey of grief. So that'll be in the evening. And this coming Monday, tomorrow night, we have our expert panel, where we have Giants from past shows come on, and we'll be talking about what, Ryan? You remember?
It is how to live your passion. It's talking about prosperity and abundance and just being you.
Super boring, not very effective, not good for your life. Just
doubtful.
Join us. It's awful.
Don't watch it.
Yeah. No, it's going to be good. Dive in.
Let's do it. Will you introduce our guest for us today?
I will. Yeah, we've got Suzanna Webb. She's a single mother of 3 who's faced many challenges, including abusive relationships and her son's diagnosis with leukemia, and has used her faith and survival skills to overcome them. She's become a best-selling author of children's books and shares her story in a combined author book, Perspective on Cancer, to help other families dealing with cancer. She's also created a support group for mothers of children with leukemia on Facebook called Leukemia Mamas. Through sharing her past experiences, she hopes to help and encourage other women to become more confident and have the courage to overcome difficult times in their lives. And so welcome to the show. We look forward to
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Your website here. So I'm going to pull this up. So if you can see that on the bottom, it's spelled a little differently. So it's 1, just in case you forgot one, put the other one in, right? onetoughmama.com.
We stalk you in real time here.
All good. My favorite number is 11. So
Hey, there you go. Yeah, just call it that. It's 11 tough mamas. But there's no S on the end.
I'll need more.
Well, let's what we like to do is we go through the framework of the 12 journeys in the show, and we may get way off track. And as you see comments, if something hits you and you want to answer that or respond to that, just stop us.
Sure.
You can interrupt us because we're going to interrupt you as you're going.
That's good.
But the idea here is to go through the journeys of a time in your life where maybe it felt a little out of control. You were maybe non-conscious. It was automatic. Things were happening to you. Life was very reactive. And what that was like waking up to that. Do you have a time in mind?
I was thinking to go back to when I was like 19 and I found out I was pregnant and wasn't going to marry her father and realized I had to be a single parent at 19. And I think that's when it kind of started my, the beginning. And just going through that, you really like take a, just like think back like, wow. Putting myself in there, like, what do I do? Like I'm barely in college and now I have this other life to take care of. And it was just like, okay, well, my life is over. It's all about this child. And, okay, what am I going to do for this child? And how am I going to make her life the best that it could be? So it all started, I think then, and then fast forward several years, actually like 12 years. In between that, I had another daughter and also single parent once again. And because of an abusive relationship, and then fast forward 8 years, I had my son. And when he was 2.5, he was diagnosed with leukemia. So that completely, I thought being a single parent was like the most difficult thing in my life. But when he was diagnosed, it was just like my life just was over. I felt,
Yeah. So a couple of awakenings, basically. So through your life, you have one impact and then another impact and then a really big impact. And a lot of people experience when they have that awareness and that awakening, what we've noticed is that oftentimes there's shame around it. Sometimes there's guilt around it, judgments that come up. And then you move into the grief, right? Because you have all these ideals for your family and where you thought you would be, and then it's different from that. Right. And so when you woke up to it, how did you navigate the judgments and maybe some of the perceptions you had about yourself going through these experiences?
So being a single mom, huge shame, guilt, like I grew up in a pretty strict Catholic family or home, and and you get married, you have children, you know what I mean? Like you go to college, you get married, you have children. That's your plan. And so you're given that at a young age. And for me, just having, shame, just complete shame and guilt. And I grew up in a home where my mom was a pro-life advocate. So I would go, she'd be marching against abortion and I would be in the stroller. And so my whole life I knew abortion, in my family, like, hey, we don't believe in that and it's not okay. So I knew that having an abortion was not ever going to be something I would choose for my child because, it's not the baby's fault. So I said, okay, well, now I have to do this alone, and that's pretty much like where I was, like with the guilt. And I actually hid it for like 3 months. I didn't want to tell my parents that, that I was pregnant, and just complete shame. And I just hid it. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And, one morning my aunt called my mom and said, hey, your daughter's pregnant. We found out, and so it kind of helped.
Yeah. Not ideal, but kind of broke the ice, right?
Right. But complete shame, like parents at that time didn't want to give baby showers to someone who's not married. And, so it was sad. It was very sad, but like, it's not my daughter's fault. Beautiful baby girl. So, and I said, okay, well, life is about choices. My dad always told me life is about choices. So sorry. So that was the choice I made. Hey,
Yeah.
I got pregnant. I'm having this baby and I'm gonna make the best life for her. So, sorry, I don't know. Allergies.
You're good. You know what?
Hold on, I
often
need to
think-
clear my throat too.
Yeah.
A throat clearing
Here's
break.
something that I see interesting is that when people they clear their throat, a lot of times it's a hard time voicing what's going on in you. And so and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a noticing that
So true.
happens to us is we often clear our throats because it's hard to put into words the emotional impact of everything that we've gone through.
It really is.
I look at, development and shame and culture and how that impacts us internally. And we try and assimilate and become a part of the culture that we're raised in. I grew up LDS, that's similar concepts there.
Mhm.
Not my thing anymore, but I can relate to that idea that there's this pressure that's put on you to be a certain way.
Yes.
And then when you don't, there's a great amount of shame and guilt that comes with that. And then you add on top of that the adversity of other things that are going on in your life and the struggle that comes from that. And it can really impact who you think you are in relation to the world and others.
Right.
And so did you experience, I'd imagine, maybe you didn't, but did you experience some form of depression with this?
I certainly did.
Tell me about that.
So when I was pregnant with my daughter, I would just lay in the bathtub and just cry and and at the time, I was with her dad, but what happened? He cheated on me. So I was like, this is not the person I want to be with. And I don't, because my mom's like, that actually took me to Vegas to try to get me married. And I was like, I don't want to marry this person. He's not the one, because once cheater, always cheater. So I was very depressed, like, okay, well, pregnant, but I want a family. I want to have that household that I had. My parents just celebrated their 50th anniversary this October. So, I wanted that loving home for my daughter. And, I just didn't see that future with her dad. So a lot of grief and depression around that, like my idea of what my life was going to look like, completely shattered.
Yeah. So notice that. And I want to highlight this for our viewers here is that in grief, a lot of research shows that grief and depression happen grief happens with loss. And grief can happen also with the loss of an ideal. So an idea of what you thought should happen that didn't happen. So it can happen there too. But depression often occurs when we don't measure up to the ideals that we have. And then they say, Lisa Feldman Barrett says that anxiety happens when we don't measure up to the ideals of others or what we think others think about us. And so here you've got this blend of a world where you're not fitting in over here. And then also internally, you had ideas of what you thought your life should be.
Right.
And so you got into that grief state. How did you move from grief? And if there's anything to share around grief and depression and anxiety that you want to continue with, let's do that.
Yes.
And also, how did you navigate that?
So I have had many other, like I shared, my son, when he was diagnosed with leukemia, huge, grief and depression. But before that, it was not even a year. It was maybe a year before my son was diagnosed. I lost my cousin, but he was more like a brother because my parents raised him. Yeah. And so I lost, and he was only 33 at the time. He had a blood clot from a motorcycle accident.
Holy cow.
So I lost my brother. Like you think, okay, being a single parent is like horrible and hard and all that, but like it's nothing compared to losing a loved one. And I had lost my aunt, my godmother, who's like my second mother. So a lot of loss, and just getting through that, for me, it was, hey, we're not promised tomorrow. So we have to live for today. And that's how I live. For like, we need to have plans for the future, but we're not promised it. So, I remember I'm gonna get choked up.
Yeah, please do.
And clear my throat.
Yeah.
Because I can't talk. but just that morning that I had breakfast with my cousin the last time, it was just like, I never thought it would be my last time.
Yeah.
So, just getting through that is like, it's really hard, but you just find a way.
Yeah.
What I do, sorry.
Oh,
What I try to do is just like remember him in a better place. Like, hey, he's sipping margaritas and, like having a good time wherever he's at. And like, just knowing like he's in a good place and like happy. And that's all I can, what gets me through, like losing a loved one.
I want to hang on this for a minute because you talk about adversity and it seems to come in these waves and it's like boom, boom, boom. And it's just like, when is this? It's almost like you're in the ocean and one wave hits you and you get knocked down and you come up for breath and another wave hits you.
Give me chills. That's exactly it.
And you can't breathe. And it's not something you can think yourself out of either. It's like going into a dark room and you can't see. So you feel your way through it. Right. And with grief and depression and anxiety, a lot of times it's this feeling your way through the experience. And the thoughts, you think of the thoughts, there's no way to think yourself through it because there's 50,000 of these thoughts going on every single day. And it's just, which one do I hang on to? So it really becomes this thing of, what am I feeling? And you're feeling sad. You're feeling, you have this internalization, this reflection of what happened and, what you miss and what you maybe could have done differently. And if only I had done this. And then you have the anger that comes along with that, right? Over this shouldn't be happening. And so there becomes a lot of bargaining and all these things around grief.
Exactly.
And so, if as you look at it, you talk about, well, now I try and hold them in a light, but it's not like you move on from somebody and you're like, oh, I forget about them and I'm fine. And I don't ever have a memory about them again. Right.
Right. Honestly, I talk about my loved ones like daily.
Yeah.
So, like even my cousin mentioned, like, I love how you talk about them. Like they're down the street, oh yeah, I remember, like, oh, he did this or, like I keep them alive. I don't go visit the burial because he's with me. Like my loved ones are with me. And that helps me. Yeah.
I want to talk about too, because you have your son that has leukemia at 2 years old. The power of acknowledgement and acceptance. So people hear acceptance and they think, oh, you're resigning to life the way it is. And you're not really resigning to life. You're just acknowledging life.
Right.
And did that play a role in your ability to move forward, being able to acknowledge?
Just acknowledging like the reality of what I was going through.
Mm-hmm. And where you are in relation to that reality. And who
honestly,
you are in relation.
When my son was diagnosed, I wanted to, not be in that. Like, I just wanted to die. That's how I felt. Like, why am I here? Like, this can't be true. Like you go through the stages of grief when you, especially, okay, it's different. Like, I don't know if it's different, but when your parents are going through something, like they've lived their life, they're much, thank you. Yeah, that's so difficult. But like when you have your parents, okay, they've lived their long life, at least my cousin had 33 years, right. But my son was only 2.5, like he didn't have life. He didn't have any time on this earth. And so it's just like, why did this happen? And at the time, I was starting a maternity home for young girls out here, and so I had to give up that dream as well. I had everything was put on hold, my nonprofit. And so it was like depressing as well, like several depressing moments, like, okay, now this dream is getting put on hold. And I'm just like, God, why? What are you doing? But truly, I always believe like there's a lesson in everything and everything happens for a reason. And we don't know why, like, and I just look back, I'm not going to live in regret. Like, there's several things I regret. I should have done this with my cousin. I should have spent more time with my aunt, but we can't live in regret. So so with my son, like, as horrible and like scared and depressed as I was in that moment. And the doctor's like, sit down, I have to tell you something, like that's not anything a parent ever wants to hear or expects to hear. And I think, at that time, it's just like, I have to get through this, and just cutting it down into like, okay, taking baby steps, one baby step at a time. So, you have your 10-year goals, 20-year goals, whatever it is, 5-year goals. Okay. But
maybe it is even like minute to minute goals and
second to second. Right? Exactly. Like I look at the door, oh, which nurse is coming in right now? And I try to like make conversation with them to get my mind off of things like, oh, why'd you get into nursing? Or, oh, how do you like it here? Or, why do you do this for a living? Whatever, just to like get my mind off of the tragedy that is happening. And, I couldn't cry in front of my son because I wanted him to be brave. So I could only cry in the shower if I got one that day because I wanted to just be with him the whole time.
Hang on right there, because I want to highlight this. This is where the struggle happens, is because all of this is going on in our world and there's no expression of it, right? Because you want to be strong for your son. And then I had cases like when I was going through my divorce as a loss, I'd tell people about it and they're like, get over it. No. They're like, move on. Why are you still on this? And it's like, are you shitting me? Like, this is like, you talk about something like this that hits you and it hits you internally. And then you feel this loneliness because you're not alone. There's people all around you, but you feel this loneliness because you can't express it to anybody.
Right. And, you're exactly right. And the other part was, I had a husband at the time and we were only married like maybe 3 years. And so I had this idea of what my life was going to look like with my 2 daughters and my husband and then my son. And that all changed in that hospital room. He had major anxiety and now I realize that. But at the time I just thought he was being like a mean, horrible person. And he switched like that. Like I thought, okay, we're going to get through this together. That's what you do as a partner. And, you support each other, you pray for your child and, you just get through it. But it wasn't like that. So I was fighting against, sorry.
No, you're okay. I think that's interesting because it highlights how little we talk about how to navigate this stuff when it comes up. Yeah. And that most of us weren't taught tools. Your husband at the time, like, highlights that perfectly. Is he went to rage or denial? He turned into something completely different than what you thought it was going to be, and that's his decisions. But at the same time, that highlights perfectly, like I said, where we're not taught this stuff. You're not taught this in school. Our parents weren't taught these things for the most part. Maybe some were super lucky and figured out, their mental health and understood these things. But only till the last few years has this been like really starting to become on the forefront of maybe more mainstream than it has been.
Right.
And so, on one hand, yeah, that sucks that he did that. It's terrible and it hurts and it's hard. But on the other hand, too, can you blame him necessarily, right? You could see or maybe have some empathy where you go,
I do now, but at the time, all I wanted was support and, and I didn't get that. And, I just heard something the other day. It was just powerful. It was like, you don't realize that when you get married, you are now having to deal with their childhood traumas. And I thought, oh my gosh, we've been divorced for several years now, but it's like, I did marry his childhood traumas because his dad was not good, just to say that. And so he learned the anger and all of that from him. And that's exactly what happened. And so I'm not going to blame him for what happened. But at the time, I'm like battling my son's cancer and this evil person that doesn't know how to handle this situation. And so he would yell at me and it's like, I'm just doing my best, and luckily I came from a very strong Catholic family. So prayer was what we do. Like in adversity, we pray. We like that's what we do. So I quickly had my son's blessing, the priest come in and bless him. And, like that's what we do. And so we just.
And it's a step, right? When you're facing uncertainty like that, this is what we're trying to create here, is not have you tolerate your suffering so that you can just live your life tolerating your suffering. That's not what we're creating with the giants. What we're creating is an empowerment from your suffering so that you can step into the unknown and start creating your life and move forward and bring those things with you.
Yes.
Man's Search for Meaning is just one version of this, but Dr. Gabor Mate and others talk about how traumas and experiences like this, whether they're collective or individual, it doesn't matter. It triggers the response to search for meaning in our life, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, you have these big experiences, 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. But each of these is like a wake-up call to start searching for meaning in your life. And it's the moment that you start finding meaning in your life that you explore, right? You start stepping out.
Right.
What does that bring up for you?
So my whole life, I was, always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like I did Mary Kay and like Quick Star and like, like all the, I heard that in another interview. I said, oh my God, they did it too.
But, been there, done that.
Right. But my dad, he's a electrical contractor and he always, worked really hard, and my mom's worked too. And, but my dad would always say like, you don't make money working for the man. So that like, and he always had like, he worked full time, but he always had his company. And so he would make money on the side and like always had extra income to support our family. Yeah. And so to me, I was just like, you don't make money working for the man. So, you gotta like create your own business and, do those things. And so, I was always trying to find like my purpose. Okay. And I was obviously at 19, I was on this journey like, okay, I have to raise this child. Well, what do I have to do? I have to go to college. So I got my business degree while I was working full time worked at a church for 6 years, and then I worked at the prison, and just trying to move up that ladder so I can pay for the private school and pay for their food, for my kids. And so just having that, like the goals that I had and like what I wanted to do in life, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I also wanted to like have that stability for my children. And so going through that, you're like, okay, what do I want to do? What are my passions? What are, so for me, it was like always event planning. And like, that's always been like my passion. I enjoy doing that. But more than that, motivational speaking. So, but I always wanted to give back. Like I try another like skill or tool or something is like, I try to use my tragedies for positive, like, turn them into positive. So that's why I wrote the book for children. Like, okay, I went through this. Maybe God wants me to write a book. As a single mom, maybe God wants me to, start a maternity home because we don't have one out here. And, it's all about giving back. And I truly believe like that is our reason for being. We were given talents for what? To give them away. We're being selfish if we're hiding our talents. So just finding my purpose, and I'm still on that journey, but like, that's just what I've been trying to do since a young age.
Can I offer a perspective on that?
Yes, please.
So on purpose, we teach this in our 12 journeys. And purpose is where a lot of people get hung up. They think, oh, I've got one and I got to find it. I got to go out there and figure out what this purpose is. Well, the word purpose is a Latin word that means to rest. It's a place of rest. It's like a rest stop on a trip. And so you're not limited to one purpose in life. It's not like I'm going to go to Maverick an hour from here and stop, and then that's it. Right. I arrived at Maverick and I'm taking a rest, but I'm not moving from there. It's not like you have that. So what happens is we create visions, and then we create rest stops along the way, places of interest, points of view. And so to limit ourselves to one, I've seen people get really, really depressed over fulfilling a purpose and then not knowing what to do next.
Right.
Right. And so when you have myriad purposes, then it allows you to open up and do everything you can imagine. Right.
Yes.
So exactly. We're not just one tree that gives fruit. Essentially, we're an infinite amount of trees within one body that gives as many fruits as we can come up with. And
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, I just think, the meaning is whatever we want to make it mean.
Yes.
So when you acknowledge what is in your life, like you're saying, your son has leukemia, you're a single mom, you have all these struggles. Well, now what you did is you decided, well, here's my inventory. This is what I've got to work with. And this is what I'm going to do with it. Right?
Yes.
It's like I dump a pile of Legos on your floor and you're like, okay, that sucks. Or I'm going to create something out of it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to a mom in my group, and her daughter had passed. And, I've dealt with grief from losing loved ones, but not my own child. And so, just trying to help her get through that was just like, you feel like your life is over. Your purpose is meaningless. Like, how do you move forward? And it had already been like few years that she had passed, and she still had one older son. But I said, what I've done, like I just said, is like try to make a positive, like make a legacy for your daughter, like do something in memory of her every month, every day, every year, whatever you have to do, but like do something to nice to meet you too. So, just having that give it purpose. Like my daughter's life had purpose, and I'm going to do this in memory of her. And, whatever that is, like, just keep their memory alive.
I love that. Pay homage to, memorialize, right? The beauty of that is it actually strengthens you to do it in that way, to remember your trauma in that way, to memorialize it actually strengthens you. That's why we bring forward our traumas that way. But when you come from the space of fear, it would be the opposite direction. So instead of memorializing the experience and paying homage to what was lost or whatever, right? I don't know where I was going to go with this, but maybe I'll find it again.
I have
go ahead.
You want me to add something?
Yes.
So another big awakening I had was my son. We had went through the whole 9 months, 10-month process of his treatment, of his chemo treatment, and, daily shots for 3 months, and just like everything. And it was difficult and like tragic. Every day was something new. You're like, oh my God, you're like on high alert. Like, I couldn't even have a glass of wine for a year because it was just so like, you had to be on high alert. You'd have to go to the hospital at any moment. So after those 10 months, I left my husband at the time, filed for divorce, all that, and had to like go escape. So it was like anyway, it was bad. But shortly after that happened, it was about 7 months after, my son's cancer came back, so he relapsed. So we thought, oh, it's all over, we're good, he just has to go through his regular treatment. No, he relapsed. So then it was like, oh my gosh, what, like, it's like the diagnosis all over again, but you're kind of prepared because you've been through it. But it's like, I just sat with God, and I'm like, I had a daughter at the time, was just learned how to drive. So she's out, driving on her own. And I'm like, she could die in a car accident. My other daughter was in the car with her, she could die with her. My son's over here in the hospital. He could die. I can lose my identity. Like, my kids are my identity. I can lose my identity, or my kids, my whole family, in one day. Like, if my son died and my kids were in a car accident, gone. That's my identity. And it was when I gave my kids to God. Like, okay, God, they're yours. You brought them into this world, and he is the one who's going to take them out. And I have I'm just their adopted parents. And so when I put it in that perspective, like, okay, yes, it would be tragic and the most difficult thing to go through, but I have no control over it. So when you realize that you have no control over, other than taking care of and trying to do your best to, you have no control of a car accident or a cancer treatment, or, once you realize that, like, that you give it to God and say, okay, God, they're yours, and I'm just at your will. That changed my life completely. Like, okay, I have to look at it from this perspective. And that's just like a tool that I've used. Like, hey, it's God's plan, not mine.
Yeah. There's a lot of releasing in that. There's a journey that we teach called surrender. And a lot of people think surrender is resigning to or retreating from something. And what you just offered here is that surrender is none of that. Surrender is just letting it play out, right? Surrender is looking for opportunities in the chaos. In my book, The Art of Accomplishment, I talk about salmonic action. And salmon have the ability to sit perfectly still in rough water. And so they won't even move a fin. They create a vortex and they just sit perfectly still. And then at the moment of opportunity, they move upstream at lightning speed. And you think about people go downstream. Even a dead fish can float downstream. That's from Steve Chandler.
Right.
And so most of us, we just float downstream with the chaos. But salmonic action is essentially just hold firm and surrender and trust that the path will open up. And then when you see the opportunity, move forward, right?
That's exactly it.
And so that's what I hear in what you're offering. Do you have a variation of that?
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Just surrendering to God's plan and having faith that he does have a plan. You know, some people I don't believe in God. Okay, well, you need to believe in something bigger than yourself. If that, whatever that is, it's bigger than you. Like, I remember my sociology class, it was there was a study done, and my teacher at the time, she was not a Christian, and she told us, there's a study done that Christians live longer than non-Christians. And, it's fascinating, why is that? And they believe that it's because we put our stress and our faith in God. And so when things get difficult, it's like, hey, that's on our shoulders, but you know what? I'm going to take it off and give it to God. And so then you have less, internal stress and less toxic things in your body to get through it,
It's beautiful. Yeah. We have people from all backgrounds. So I love this because the idea is looking for a higher version of yourself, of source, of God, however you frame it, doesn't matter. But having something out there that is bigger than you gives you kind of a vision and a target to look forward to, right?
Exactly.
Reality, if you think about it, most comedians are depressed. And the reason they're depressed is because they see reality exactly as it is. And they're funny because they describe reality as it is. And we all laugh because we don't want to say that's the way it is, but it is, And you have these comedians who are the funniest people taking their lives because they can't handle the reality. And there's power in the delusion. There's power in the vision,
right?
Being able to see beyond yourself. And that's where this comes in. I mean, we have people that, as far as backgrounds, they're Muslims, they're Buddhists, they're Christians, and some that are atheists. And it's like, in any of those cases, there's always a higher version or something outside of you that's bigger than you that you can lean on. Otherwise you lose hope, right?
Exactly. And that's where the, the fear and the anxiety and all of that comes in when you put all the stress and everything on yourself. And, my poor aunt, I feel like she had sarcoma cancer and was gone in 9 months and left a daughter that was in 8th grade, and so single mom as well. And so, that's my uncle right there. So, just going through, like that, I feel like she kept the stress in and it killed her. And it's just like, we can't let the stress kill us. We have to let go and give it to God.
That's interesting. I just had a thought. Nobody exploded by expression. Right. They exploded by implosion, basically, by holding it all in and shrinking down. Right.
Right.
And so that's where, the expression, there's another doctor that we follow, and she says the expression is the antidote to depression.
Right.
And so many of us, like you say, we hold it in. We're alone. We're lonely inside of our suffering, and there's nobody to share it with.
Exactly.
Did I hear that right?
That's why I said I joke at funerals. I let it out and smile and be happy, even though maybe my world is in chaos.
Yeah.
Is that for me is my expression of that energy and moving through. I don't like it. I hate funerals. I hate grief. I hate I don't like it at all. I wish that it didn't exist, but it does. And so then what do you do? And I think that's amazing that perspective and that view as you're moving through it. Like it's something that also takes practice.
Right.
And and when you're going through the thick of it, and you've been through some thick stuff, sometimes it's easier. Like it's recommended, like Nick said, not maybe not easier. It could be a practice as well. Is to sit with it for a minute, feel the feelings, see what's going on, and then go, okay, here we go. But the key is to keep moving,
Yeah.
because
Keep
you
moving
could get
forward.
stuck, and you get stuck there, and that could cause a
That
whole nother set of
Well,
problems.
and exactly. And saying like, what am I supposed to learn from this? And just seeing the lesson in everything. Okay. And so this happened for a reason. My poor daughter, her little kitty, left us. And, it's like, what is the lesson in this? And, it's tragic for her and for me, for all of us. We love this little kitty that she just got like a month ago. And, and so it's like tragic. And at a young age, I had lost pets as well, like tragically. And so it's like, what is the lesson in this? How can we move forward? How can we learn from this? What will I do differently next time? What will, and it's just trying to find the lesson in everything and believe everything happens for a reason. Like that's truly how I get through things. And also my family is very funny and they like to joke and all that. So we totally make jokes about at funerals. My cousin, he was a big teddy bear guy. And like, he had a bunch of girls that, I have this girlfriend, that girl. And I said, let's just make a row in the church for all his girlfriends. Cause none of them knew that like they were all his girlfriends. I'm like, let's just make a row for him. So like, we just laugh, like we just make jokes and we still do. And it's like, you have to laugh. You have to laugh through it all. So
when my dad died, there's a story in the family. I was 2 when he died. He died from leukemia. And at the funeral, one of my sisters says, well, at least he gets his own pillow.
Right? Doesn't have to share.
Yeah, no more sharing.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
That lightness is part of life. Like being able to joke around, it alleviates, it expresses in a way that helps us to re-engage with life. I mean, that life would be it would be challenging without humor.
It really would.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree 100%.
And without Monster Energy and coffee.
Or
super challenging.
Monster, yeah.
or my coffee.
It's almost like we need to do this, right? Our sponsors, right?
It's our highlighting amazing things.
Yeah, Monster Energy drinks. We've gone quite a few places in this journey, right? In this show, and an hour goes by fast. But thinking about the future and where you're going, so we've explored where you've been, we explore where you are, and then the expression of where you're going. And when it comes to vision is what takes the unknown and the abundance that surrounds us and turns it into something. It just transforms it into something amazing. And then surrender and nurture, we call this the double helix of creation, because they work together to create that vision as a reality. And then you leave that as a gift to the world, a legacy.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about where you're going and what you're envisioning, what are you creating in the world?
That's a great question. So honestly, looking back on, how did I get myself to being pregnant at 19 and, what got me there? I had to take a deep look at okay, well, what were the things that, I could have changed, and would have changed my life. Not everything we can change. My son's diagnosis, you can't change that. But some things I could have changed, like I grew up very low self-esteem, zero confidence. And I would say it, I remember someone say, oh, you look pretty today. Oh, I'm so ugly. Or I'm so, so honestly, my goal is to become a motivational speaker and help young people, young girls, young boys to become more confident and have a higher self-esteem. And I believe helping them do that, they will believe that they can accomplish anything, and they won't settle for somebody who cheats on them or somebody who doesn't work, or, they won't settle for anything. They're like, hey, I believe in myself and I believe I could do this. And they'll have, they'll they'll see all the possibilities and go after their dreams. So that's truly where I want to be. And I want to, help others and become more confident and love who they are. And I mean, God made them. So, they're made in the image of God. And I don't think people realize that. Like, hey, and when you're talking bad about yourself, you're talking bad about what God created. So, anybody like, oh, I don't look at, you know what? You're God's child. You look like him. So stop. Exactly. So, and so I just believe like if you're young and like you have more self-confidence and all that, like you can get anywhere and, and just follow your passions and dreams.
I want to be the first real quick to congratulate you on becoming a motivational speaker, because you are that.
Oh, thank you.
You don't have to put it out there in the future, because this is reality. This is happening now, and you've inspired and motivated people today, right now, with what you're doing. And I imagine that this is the way that you are, that the way that we call it being. This is the way of being for you. It's shifted and it's grown and it's matured and you've knocked off rough edges as you've gone. But this is how you're showing up in your world. I can see it. I can feel it. And you're going to continue to grow and impact more and more and more people because of the things that you've been through, the adversity, the hard things. And then they've shifted and helped shape you to what you are now. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that you were able to be here and you are a motivational speaker.
Thank you. My kids are annoyed by it. Like, Mom, we don't need another speech. And I'm like, I'm just trying to help you out. But maybe other people will listen. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was always inside you.
Yeah.
Hugh's right. I think that's a Hugh comment. That's right.
There's is it The Knight's Tale, where the guy says you have been measured and found wanting, right? He says something along those lines. Well,
you've been weighed, you've been measured,
been
found wanting.
Right?
Yeah.
Why do I know that? I don't
know.
I watch it every day.
Right.
Want, means to be without. And when you say I want to be a motivational speaker, it's to say I am without being that, like as though that is not a thing. So the shift and the transformation in your languaging around that could come from I am that. And now I'm building myself up to be that even better.
Yeah.
You are not wanting for being a motivational speaker. In fact, we've got people from Ghana. We've got people from India on this episode right now. As far away as
podcasts that are
Yuma,
watching you.
Right.
Awesome.
Yuma. Yep. This is from Yuma, Canada.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're all over the world
Canada,
watching you.
And I think when I say that, I'm just looking to the future, like, okay, I haven't been on a stage yet, except for like when I ran for president in 8th grade, but
cool.
Didn't get it. But anyway, lesson learned. And, just I'm not on the stage yet, but that's where I'm headed. So thank you for saying all of those kind words, and I appreciate it.
It's interesting because that's interesting too, like because I don't know, Zoom, StreamYard, and stuff like that. Most people were on stages. That's how we viewed it, right?
Right.
You are on a stage.
You're right. Exactly.
This goes out to this can impact and ripple.
It's a huge stage.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing is, so there may be 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 people that watch this live right now currently, but it stays up forever.
Right.
And all of these people watching, I know a lot of these people on here, and they're very influential in their own world and in the world of the giants, and they go out and take part of your message and assimilate it into them and their way of being, and then spread that out. That ripple effect is huge. You're having a giant impact right now.
Thank you. And I appreciate this opportunity just being on here and spending time with you all. It's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. If we've got about 10 minutes, and so that's a lot of time still. 10 minutes, we can accomplish a lot in that.
We can.
So, talking about the idea of overcoming adversity, if you were to sum up overcoming adversity, what would that look like?
So, adversity is just difficult times. So overcoming that is getting through it. And just like I mentioned, prayer and belief that there's something bigger and greater, and everything happens for a reason, and getting through that. You have to just look we have to live in today and just be grateful for today. And I think that's so important because people, I have a vision board. I have it like on actually I'm creating these, but like I created a vision board like on my phone. So I look at it every single time, I look at my phone. And, but the thing is, we have to be happy right now. Like, okay, today is all I have. It's called the present because it's a gift. And if we only look to the future or think about the past, we're not living for today in the present. And just, going through difficult times. And when you're going through it, you're just, like I said, take little baby steps and just like having a goal, like, okay, next year I'm going to do this. You accomplish it in little pieces. And it's another thing I'd like to do is help people accomplish their goals as well, like setting goals, because they don't teach you that in school. They don't teach you how to set goals or make a vision plan or, anything like that. So another thing I want to help young people with is just, hey, I'm living for today, but I also need to take action on these goals that I have. And that helps you get through. I remember, okay, so before COVID happened, it was, my son was diagnosed 9 months before COVID. And so we were already quarantined in our home and trying to keep him away from germs. And my daughter had to live with my parents and it was awful. It was just tragic. But I'm like, okay, what can I do today? I'm living with a horrible, mean person and a sick child. And what can I do today? I would make lists of, things I want to do once he's better, or places we can go once he's in maintenance. And, like just looking towards happiness and the future and being positive, 100% stay positive.
There's a spin on this, right? There's BC, there's AD, and then there's PC. Post-COVID, right? There's this creation of 3 years post-COVID. PC has been 3 years since this big event in my life, and this is what I've created. And we measure time from things, right? It's amazing that whatever the event is, that could be your post-COVID or post-event that becomes
post-tragedy.
Yeah, PT or whatever you want to call it. That it's been 3 years. One of our friends, Matt Evans, is measuring, I think a little over 1,000 days since he had his last drink, right?
Amazing.
Like that, like LD, 1,000 LD. It's like you can create your own time frame. I mean, why not? People have made it up anyway, and we all seem to follow along. So why not create our own version of that?
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
And then how you're going to do it, that's the fun part. None of us know. The future is truly unwritten. It's not predestined. I think people say that, oh, you're destined to do this. You might come with special gifts and talents, but you could do absolutely nothing with it. You could bury your talent, right?
And that's the saddest thing ever, because so many people are talent. Everyone has a talent. God did not put anyone on this earth without a talent. So, and so it's selfish to not show those talents and give them away. And honestly, that's the true meaning of life for me, is giving back, because I follow Tony Robbins, and he would say, like, the wealthiest people in the world, they come to me and they ask for help. And Tony, obviously not me, but they come
not yet.
And they have, and they have everything in their life, and but they're depressed. And he's like, because you're not giving back. Because you're not giving your talents and your gifts, because you're not doing for others. So you don't feel fulfilled. And truly that, to me, is the meaning of life, giving back.
That's what Pablo Picasso said too. The purpose of life is to find your gift, and the meaning is to give it away. Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Pablo's smart.
I know.
Cool. Ryan, other thoughts?
Cool. I do. I have a thought that this if you let me read just a quick, I don't know what it's called. It's not a poem. It's a thought. But just to preface this too, I understand, like, sometimes you don't get to choose your circumstance. You don't get to choose your grief, the things that are happening, in life. A tragedy can happen and you didn't pick that. You need to say, hey, I'll take a side of this, and the drink that I'll have today is my kid getting cancer. That's not part of the menu. You just that's not it. Sometimes it just happens. So with that, this is out there and probably been used a lot, but it's called an autobiography in 5 chapters. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Same. This is the second part. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. The third version. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It's my fault. I get out immediately. The fourth version. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. The fifth version. I walk down another street. And in that, like overcoming adversity, there's views, there's ways to see that. And you can, life gives you experience as you're going through it. The last episode, we had a guy that said our experience is our feedback.
Mm-hmm.
As something comes in, you knew what to do. Like, hey, this is happening again. I'm having another baby and I'm a single parent. I've been through these experiences, so I can do things differently. I can see things in a new way. And you continue to evolve and progress and move through it. And it becomes easier to do. Ralph Waldo Emerson says that the nature of the ability, like it says, that which we persist in doing becomes easier to do. Not that the nature of the task changes, but our ability to do it increases.
Yeah.
And so you've had some practice. You've been a single mom, so now the second time around is a little easier. You know what to do, what not to do, and there's less fear, worry, doubt, and you shift and you grow, and then something like this happens with your son, and you gain feedback, you gain experience, you gain wisdom. If you you had choices though in this, and this is where I wanted to highlight the point, is you have choices in that. As you're going through it, what do you do with it? How do you see it? And it might be buried by a bunch of fear, a bunch of sadness, a bunch of worry, doubt, depression. All of these things can pile on top of us, and we might not be able to see a way out. And that's where family, friends, other giants, you lean back on your feedback and your experience, and you can start peeling those things off to see hope and to see future and the brightness and the laughter and the joy in life, and continue to move and go down a different street.
Exactly.
You don't have to stay there. And so that's some of the message. I just wanted to
Love
say that I'm very impressed with who you are.
Thank you.
And so thank you for finding us. I you messaged me, and I'm grateful that we were able to have you here.
Thank you.
There's no accidents, right, Nick?
No.
Nick, what do you say?
Yeah.
You're right on time. It's like, oh crap, what do I say?
It depends on the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say things that are totally inappropriate.
Sometimes it's dark and weird, but
and then we learn from that.
But for the most part, Nick says you're right on time. You're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like you are who you are right now. You're the sum total of every experience and everything that you've been through. And I cannot wait to see where you go from here in the lives that are impacted, because you've impacted our lives and the lives of our viewers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Do you have final thoughts here?
I'd love to just leave with anybody who, is going through any kind of tragedy or may possibly go through a tragedy and they don't know what to do. They or you or anybody, you have all gotten through 100% of your difficult times so far. 100%. And I think Steve Harvey said that. And so you're going to do it again. And just taking small, tiny baby steps when you're going through that difficult time. And hey, think in the moment, what can I do right now? Just right now. We're not talking about 10 years of a diagnosis or nothing. The doctor said 3 years he has to go through this. Okay, well, let's live for this moment, this minute, this day. Last thing is, this too shall pass. Everything passes, good, bad, everything will pass. And you'll be at the end of this. Like I'm at the end of, my son is healed, thanks to God. And He's doing amazing. And so I'm at the end, like, it passed. And I'm just so grateful. And just to remember, like, this will pass. And time makes it easier, and just growing from that experience. And that's what I love to share with everyone.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I just hear every time you say that, like, this will pass.
It
All
will.
things pass, including us. We're going to pass one day.
We will.
And there's so much good in the world still. So the more Salmonic you can be, the more you can just hold firm and move forward, right? Regardless of all this stuff that's happening, the better life is going to turn out because you're going to create it that way.
And one last thing is just to
Yep.
stay positive. So many people are just, they look at the negative, like, glass half empty. No, it is clearly the water is there. So it is half full. And just being positive, and you don't know what someone is going through in their day. You have no clue what they're going through. So smile, be happy, be kind to everyone. You don't know what they're going through.
Hugh says you have a glass. That's a big thing, right? And you have a
grateful
glass.
you have a glass.
You have a glass.
Yeah, maybe there's water in it. Maybe at the current moment there's not. But you got a glass.
You got a glass.
Exactly.
Right? Well, thank you for being on the show. For those that are watching, we love you. Thank you. We can talk fractals for a second.
Yeah.
That might be it. But thank you for being a part of the show. Everything you guys do, it just indicates that you already have everything you need within you. When we do this, the X marks the spot is you are the X. You are where everything originates from, what comes from you. And so go out there and do that. If you're not a member of the Tribe of Giants on Facebook, you need to be a part of that community. There's 4,300 plus members from around the world that are doing what you're doing. They're doing their work just like you're doing your work. And so it's a great supportive community and a way to share and express light to others. And so come join the Tribe of Giants. Thanks for being a part of our show. Thanks for helping us get the message to your friends and family and loved ones. And as always, we will see you in the next episode. Make it a giant day.
Love you too.
Thank you.